Hey traders, TG Watkins here with simplertrading.com and welcome to the StockCharts TV segment of Moxie Minutes. So yesterday we gave you a little teaser of what I'm going to be talking about today and that we're seeing a lot of things in the market melting down. We're going to continue talking about that, showing you some things of what to look for that when a stock breaks, don't just try to catch the bounce or go long the bounce, that they might actually be bouncing into resistance. So we've got quite a few examples of that. Then we'll touch on some of the names that we talked about yesterday because we've got some more developments today. We had the market go up and then we had the market come right back down. So is this a problem or is it still just kind of flagging sideways, letting the FOMC from yesterday, letting the quad witching and quarter end rebalancing and all sorts of stuff going on. Plus we have the end of the year coming up and some tax loss selling. So there are a bunch of cross currents happening out there. So let's dive into it. If you guys have any more questions about who I am and what I do and subscriptions and alerts and education, come over here to profitpilot.com. All right, so we come over here to the S&P, and one of the things that I wanted to show, if we go over here to the lower time frame charts, because this is where some of the action was, that we had a giant move Wednesday after the FOMC, and I make it a rule that I like to wait until after the FOMC, like let it settle in for a day. The other thing that I was looking at is that there was a really big gap between price and the 15-minute 50 and kind of the same thing on the hourly chart. And I just thought, I'm not sure that this thing is just going to keep screaming on up to the upside the very next day. And sure enough, we did get a little bit of a move up from the overnight just from residual momentum. But other than that, price came right back down to the 15-minute 50, which is what I was telling my subscribers that we should be looking for. And be careful about this move up. Let's let it settle in, and that's where we're at. So where do we go from here? It is pretty difficult to tell because mostly price is still just going sideways and consolidating. But if we were to look at the bullish approach, we should be saying that at least we have the 8 over the 21, and then we have price following the daily 50. And for now, we still have a trampoline move on the hourly chart. We'll see if that continues to be strength. I'm not totally sure. And then we'll have to see if the 15-minute 50 is strength with the Moxie indicator above 0. For the bearish case, what we could be seeing is the fact that the Moxie indicator is still below 0 despite price being up here. That could be a problem. It can continue to move up over time, but right now that could be an issue. And right now, we don't have a clear picture of what's happening. We need some more time until we can really figure out what's happening there. And if we look at the NASDAQ is actually fairly weak. What I was looking at here on the 15-minute time frame was, again, that move up, and it pulled back. And it did not hold the 15-minute 50. It's come all the way back down. The other thing I was looking at is that on the hourly time frame, if we look through here and zoom in just a bit, my concern was that the hourly 50 is still below the hourly 200. This can be problematic. The other thing that we can look at here is that the Moxie indicator is still struggling. It is still below 0. It's not really looking energetic. Yes, price is at the daily 50, and so far that's holding, but man, this is looking pretty sketch. It could just need some more sideways action, sideways to down, but right now I don't see the next opportunity to move up other than just this flag into the daily 50. So maybe in another few days or whatever, we can start seeing some more clarity and get price to move on up. But I'm ultimately going to need to see the Moxie indicator continue to look better on the hourly chart, which it's just not quite there. And we do have the daily Moxie indicator below 0. So problematic around there. And then if we look at the IWM, this is the other thing that I left off with yesterday from the teaser was that, hey, we got price coming down here doing a double bottom, and kind of zoom in here on this one. And so if those of you who know my patterns, this is a 50, 200, 50 pattern on the 15-minute time frame. And that's why yesterday with price moving up right into the underside of the 15-minute 200 and the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0, I was like, I don't think this thing's ready to go. So I was expecting a pullback today. That's why yesterday's move up, like, okay, great, fine, we'll see what happens. But we'll have to see if it can follow through because right now, or at least yesterday and even today, it wasn't holding support. It had only moved up. Now we need to actually come back down, test and verify that support. And we're kind of on a razor's edge right here. The question we're trying to answer is this double bottom going to hold? Is this positive divergence going to work out? And is this going to be a trampoline move on the 15-minute time frame? We just don't quite know yet. So if this starts to hold and starts to move up, like, okay, good. We can start moving up for a little bit. I am aware that the hourly 200 is overhead. That could be resistance. And generally speaking, we are underneath the daily 50. So any kind of move up could be into resistance for actually a larger move down later. So there could be an up before a down. Now, if price is just going to keep going down, then what I'm going to be looking at is seeing if price continues to get rejected by the underside of the hourly 50. And basically, if price cannot get on top of or hold the 15-minute 50, and the Moxie indicator keeps trending down like that, and basically we should see, if that happens, we should see the IWM continue to break down here and break below that prior low. So fail the double bottom. This is where we're at. It's very tenuous with the market, so just really be careful out there and make sure you kind of have your position set, have your stops, whatever you need. Now, the other thing we're looking at, Airbnb. I was thinking about this yesterday, and in through here, one thing to look at, and we'll zoom out on here on the 15. So talking about that double bottom situation that we're looking at with the IWM, and I've had a lot of people say, well, I thought double bottoms hold. I thought they're bullish. I said, well, a double bottom is only a double bottom if it works. Otherwise, it's a resting place until price goes lower, and that's what we're seeing here with Airbnb. Is you can see that there was a double bottom and there was a bounce, but it didn't hold and it broke lower and it just kept going lower. So what's happening is you get all the people here looking left trying to figure out, like, okay, is price going to hold from that previous low? And there's some battles going on, some buying, selling, whatever. And if it can't hold, then people start to sell because it didn't work, and those who are short continue to short. So that is a line in the sand, and when it breaks, it's not good. And what we could see is, if you're trying to figure out, hey, is this going to hold? Well, notice that the 15-minute time frame and the 15-minute Moxie indicator never looked good. So it never held, and that kept going lower. This is what we need to be careful about with the IWM. With anything else that you see as a double bottom, be careful. They don't always have to hold. AMD was another one that I spoke about yesterday, and I cautioned about that up move. And today, for good reason, is we're seeing that. Yes, it's at the daily 50. Is it ready to go yet? We're not sure. Yesterday, it did run right into the underside of the hourly 200, which was expected because the Moxie indicator was so far below zero. In fact, if you guys are starting to watch me and see what I do about this on StockCharts TV, one of the things that the Moxie indicator is really good about are the trampoline moves. So inverse or regular. This was an inverse trampoline move, and I could see that going into this. This is why I didn't buy it yesterday. This is why I didn't chase it. And I pretty much knew that price was going to come back down because of the inverse trampoline move setup. And so what that is price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And this is the strength of the Moxie indicator. You can see going into this, not to chase this thing, that it's just not ready. So now you're thinking, okay, well, price is pulled back to the hourly 50, to the 15 minutes, still on the daily 50. Is this a long? And this is actually what I was talking about with Dave Keller earlier today for the other show that's going to come out about the pitch. And he's saying, well, I love that you use multiple time frames. And I said, yeah, because I need to see what's going on. So for example, if we look at AMD and we're only looking at the daily chart, you might be thinking, hey, price is going to hold the daily 50 and we've got a double bottom in there, and I can buy. Everything's looking good. However, in my world, because I use multiple time frames and I can see a little bit underneath the surface because I'm trying to then analyze if price can hold the daily 50, I then go over to the hourly chart and say, well, is price holding anything in here? Is there a setup? Is there a bullish setup here on the hourly chart? And there is not. And the reason that there is not is because the Moxie indicator is telling me that that momentum and energy is still so far below zero that there's pretty much no hope that this thing is ready to go positive yet, that it's ready to go bullish. It's just not there yet. And so if you are trying to protect yourself, don't be long in this. If you're trying to go long, don't go long in this. If you're trying to short, that probably would have been the greatest short right there because it's an inverse trampoline move. So it just depends on what your trade is and what you're willing to tackle and what you want to look for. The Moxie indicator can help define that for you and help you find that. So I'm looking at this, and for now, I cannot say, nor can I confirm that the daily 50 is going to be support. And I'd actually be concerned that it won't be and that price could fall off of the daily 50. I don't know how far down it's going to go. I don't know if maybe a dip below the 50 and then it's going to go back up. But right now, all I can tell you, I don't think this thing's going to hold the daily 50. So keep being careful. I don't see a long setup, and just protect yourself when it comes to situations like this because they're just not ready. Another one, NVIDIA. Tech was getting hit, but look at this. It's kind of the same thing. NVIDIA and AMD are looking awfully similar. And you can see here there was an inverse trampoline move right there. So even though price was up and it was over the hourly 50, notice that the hourly 50 was still trending down, and the Moxie indicator was still so far below zero, it was impossible that price was going to go up from here. So we're seeing the same thing again. There was a huge bounce yesterday from the FOMC for whatever reason. Price jumped up. I hope you guys didn't buy into that because it was a fake move. And now you got price coming right back down. And you know what? The hourly 50 is still in a downtrend, and the Moxie indicator is still very, very much below zero. So there's nothing to be seen here as far as a long setup. I don't care that price is here at the daily 50. It doesn't matter right now because the hourly chart is not setting up. You can see this in a little bit more development with Tesla. I mean, look at this. So Tesla, maybe you're wondering, hey, is price going to hold the daily 50 right there? It bounced off it twice, right? Well, if you're only looking at the daily chart, you might think, hey, this is looking pretty good. It double bottomed off of there. Like, let's go. And then you'll be rudely surprised over the last couple days that price just very much slid below the daily 50. And, you're like, oh, well, what happened? What went wrong? Well, notice the Moxie indicator. Look at this. It's the same thing as NVIDIA and AMD. The Moxie indicator is just so far below zero. The long side is hopeless right now. It's just not going to happen. Price is just, even if it does go up, it's not going to be sustainable. The Moxie indicator just is not ready. I mean, look at that. It is not ready. It is nowhere near zero. It's negative, negative, negative. So any kind of move up is a false move to the upside. Heck, if you're a day trader or a short-term trader, go short that stuff. That's what the use of the Moxie indicator can help you with. But you can see here, price went right smack into the underside of the hourly 50, and price went right smack into the underside of the hourly 50. This is how you can stay safe, or you can make money on the short side if that is your cup of tea. So I'm seeing that all over the place. Now, some other things to be looking at. I want to show you a past chart. We're going to go way back here, and this is FCEL. And if we look here on the daily, and let's see if I can get back here enough on the hourly, and I just want to show you in through here. If we look at what happens when a stock breaks, all right, we're seeing some stocks currently break. And so I went back in history to show you some of these past examples, and you'll see that yes, there were some big pops, and there were some, let's get that working. There were some pops there, and there was another pop there. But what you'll notice, ultimately, they ended up being bounces in a downtrend. So how do you make sure that you don't get stuck in one of those, or buy it thinking it's going to be an uptrend and then it rolls over and you're surprised and it keeps going lower and you lose money? First things first, notice that the hourly 50 is below the hourly 200. It's not a good situation. The fast moving average is below the slow moving average. That is technically bearish. Okay, it's a downtrend. You can see the same situation here on the daily chart. The fast moving average is below the slow moving average. And you can see it did it the entire time until right here where you got some sort of bounce. All right. But basically each bounce was into resistance right there, even on the daily chart. The other thing to look at, and I know the Moxie indicator was firing and all that kind of stuff, up, down, up, down, up, down, but look at the daily Moxie indicator. Look how negative that thing was. And look at the daily 50. It was in a downtrend. I know sometimes it's hard to see this stuff as it's happening, but this is why I like to use lower time frames to help, speed things up so I can see it. And really what I'm looking at is, notice that the hourly 50 is in a downtrend, the hourly 200 is in a downtrend, all that kind of stuff. And again, if we talk about AMD as the example in NVIDIA and how they had bounces, well, bounces in a downtrend, what happened? Notice that we got a bounce, but how far down was the Moxie indicator below zero? It was super far. And so even though there was a bounce, and maybe you could trade this on a lower time frame, go for it. But if you're trying to swing trade or try to longer term trade and actually buy a position that's going to appreciate, what this is telling you, like, look, the Moxie indicator was so far below zero that this had to do a ton of work just to even barely push the Moxie indicator over zero. And then it didn't work. And price could not hold the moving average. So there's the example. And then if we look at this as a few current things and say, hey, AFRM, sure, maybe it's going to get into a place to where it can bounce. Maybe it's going to find some support here at that major moving average. Sure. Or maybe you've been trying to look bounce, bounce, bounce. But all these bounces have been in a downtrend. Why? Well, number one, look at the Moxie indicator. Look how far below zero it has been. Therefore, any bounce right there has not worked out because look how far below zero the Moxie indicator has been. This is the rock. This is the thing that helps tell you that energy and momentum is negative because the indicator is just so far below zero that any move up just won't be sustained. Not until the Moxie indicator really turns around, gives you divergence, gets over zero, and then you need the moving averages to come into place with it. So and then also we're looking at the hourly 50 crossing below the 200. And then you can see the 50s just in a downtrend. So far, everything's just been bounces in a downtrend. And now look at the daily Moxie indicator, still super far below zero. So this kind of stuff, unless you're short trading or unless you're short-term trading, being very quick and nimble, there are no long opportunities in here. So don't try and get stuck in one of these things that is really just a bounce in a downtrend. Now let's take a look at another one. Task, just another name that I'm looking at and trying to show you guys and present them. Look what's happening here. So we get price that finally broke. Maybe it bounces a little bit, but then what happens after that? Here is the negative Moxie setup. We have the negative, the down Moxie price trigger firing. That just tells me that the indicator has now gone from positive to negative. So energy is now negative. And then you can see price came from underneath the daily 50, hit the underside of the daily 50 and handily got rejected and down like that. So look at that. It's just like a ceiling. If you look, initially you can see price bounced off of an uptrending daily 50. And then you can see price got rejected by the underside of a downtrending daily 50. It's the same concept of price bouncing off of the 50, just one's up, one's down. One's above, one's below. It's the same kind of deal. And you look down here and you say, well, price couldn't hold the moving average anywhere in there. And even through here, just like what I was saying on a FCEL, price did get over the hourly 50. Look how low the Moxie indicator was when it did this. There's nothing to do here. There's nothing. There's no setup. And then even in through here, price eventually falls off the 50 again. So now you're talking this. Well, maybe price is going to hold. It might. Maybe if you're a short-term trader, sure, you can be trading here off of the hourly 50. And yes, the Moxie indicator is above zero. But what is the greater scheme? What is the overall arching theme of what's happening here? The 200 is in a downtrend and the 50 is below the 200. This is really not ready to go long yet. Yes, there might be moves, but as far as a change of direction and a trend and a move that you can catch the upside for any kind of length with the wind at your back, it's not here. Notice that the daily 8 is still below the 21. Notice that the daily 50 is still in a downtrend. Notice how far below zero the daily Moxie indicator is. So even though there might be bounces in this thing, it's just not ready to go long. And how about Square? Maybe another one that you guys are familiar with. I'm looking through this. Where this started, actually just like Task. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see that. Just like Task, you had price fall below the daily 50 and then it came up like this, got rejected by the underside of the daily 50. The Moxie indicator was negative, as you can see here, because of the Moxie price trigger. So now price is trying to go up through the underside of a moving average while the Moxie indicator is negative. That's not a good trade. And you can see it readily gets hit back down. Yes, it bounces again, but once more, I can't emphasize this enough, but once more, you get price trying to bounce up through the underside of a downtrending daily 50, and look how low the Moxie indicator is. It's the same stuff I keep telling you over and over and over on the hourly chart. Look at that, look at that, look at that, and look at the Moxie indicator below zero. All of that is the same thing here on the daily chart. So there are bounces in a downtrend because of the inverse trampoline move on both the daily and the hourly. I love this setup. I love the trampoline move when we're in a bullish market. It's the inverse trampoline move when we're in a bearish market. So it's just trying to tell you that, hey, the Moxie indicator is your rock. It's trying to tell you what really the overall sentiment, direction, and energy of the move is of price. And that, you know what? don't get faked out by price being over the daily 50, even with the Moxie indicator below zero. It's not going to happen. It's an inverse trampoline move. And then you got to kind of cut through the chaff and notice that the daily 50 is definitely in a downtrend. You can see the same thing here. Even though price popped up over the hourly 50, notice how far below zero the Moxie indicator is. Very far. And other than that, the hourly 50 is just in a giant downtrend. So step aside, or if you want to short trade this stuff, but don't go long. All right, I think you guys are pretty much get the hang of it for what I'm trying to show you. So it is a treacherous market out there. We're seeing a lot of rotation. It looks to me like value stocks are starting to get stronger. Those are basically your slow stocks, your big blue chip stocks, the stuff that pay dividends, things that have good earnings and actually have cash flow. Speculation is out. You need to start getting safe. Inflation's going up. Interest rates are going to be raised. The Fed is tapering. The money is going back into safer stocks that they can kind of just hide out in, get protected. So I think that is the theme of what's going on. Might want to start considering that for yourself. Just think of like the slow, old, boring kind of names. And I think you need to put your money in that direction, and hopefully that'll work out for you. All right, guys, thanks again, and hope to see you around next week.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.